Greetings to you and welcome to this episode of Grace Podcast. I'm Timothy Muse. I'll be your host as we spend this time together today. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for making this podcast a part of your work. I want to thank you for being on this journey and for investing in yourself and investing in your time. It's so awesome that you see this place and that you're in this place, that you're present in these moments. If this podcast is helpful, please share it out there. Put it out there on your social media feeds. I post on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, and Facebook. If you follow me or the life coaching on any one of those feeds, you're going to see these episodes. And if you're on one of the listening platforms, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music, please follow us, give us a rating and review. Every positive rating and review tells the platforms people are listening, and it will let you know when a new episode comes out. And if you want to reach out to me, as always, gracelifecoaching.com is the website. So I want to dig a little deeper into this. We started talking last time about spring and we're looking forward to spring, but we're still gripped in winter. And I want to start talking a little bit about today, a topic most adults feel. Most of us feel this, but we rarely understand it. And that is emotional winter. That season of life where energy feels lower and motivation slows down, emotions simmer quietly under the surface, and you're not as outwardly productive as you used to be. There's that time. We ebb and flow. We go into these seasons, and that's what's important for us to understand is we look at the seasons around us, and we can understand ourselves based on the season around us, and that is what emotional winter is. Now, most people see emotional winter as a problem. I want you to see it as something incredibly purposeful. Just as nature has a winter season, a period of rest and stillness and resetting, your emotional life follows that same rhythm. It does. We are very connected to the world around us, and our emotional lives follow that same rhythm. So we're going to talk about what is emotional winter, recognizing when you're in it and learn how to work with it rather than push against it, and give yourself permission to slow down without guilt. So that's what I'd like to take us today. So what is emotional winter? Think about the natural world in wintertime. Everything looks still. Everything looks bare. Everything seems quiet. That's where we're at right now. I mean, where I'm at, where I'm located, it's blanketed in snow everywhere. It just looks like one big giant white sheet. Don't see anything going on. Don't see anything happening. But beneath the surface, everything is preparing. And I know that. My brain knows that. But my eyes don't see any preparation. My eyes don't see anything changing. Just snow. Lots and lots of snow. Nature's conserving energy. Roots are strengthening, systems are resetting, the ground is repairing itself. That's what's happening. But I don't see that. We don't see that in wintertime. We just see dormancy and cold. We see, struggle and challenge. But nature is actually doing the work underground. It looks like nothing is happening, but in reality, everything is happening, just deeper than the eyes can see. Emotional winter works the same way, my friends. It's the season where you don't feel as energized, where you need more rest or quiet time. Inspiration comes more slowly. Your emotions feel heavier or deeper. You're reassessing your identity, direction. You're questioning old patterns, which we should all do. We should all make sure we question old patterns. You're repairing old emotional wounds. None of this is a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your inner world is doing essential repair work, and that's what emotional winter is. It's a time when we allow our inner world to do its repair work, when we allow our inner world to do the work that needs to be done, because it does have a purpose. There has a reason. Just like the seasons have a winter, your emotional winter has a purpose. Every living thing requires a period of dormancy, a period to reset and restore and recalibrate. That is what emotional winter does. For humans, emotional dormancy serves a number of key purposes that I want to talk about. The first one is emotional detox. You release emotions you've been carrying for far too long. When we get busy, when we're running and moving and creating, all these emotions, they just kind of like pile up inside of us and we push them down, we tamp them down, we stick them in a corner, we never really deal with them, we just move on. At some point, we have to detox ourselves. At some point, we have to deal with the stress and the disappointment and the resentment and the fatigue and the old expectations that we have been tamping down. So emotional winter gives us a chance to detox that, to just go through it. Do I really need to deal with it? Can I just let it go? Can I just work, release it, release it rather than carrying it through. So detoxing our emotional box, if you will. It gives the nervous system time to reset. Your mind and body shift out of that kind of high alert mode into that healing mode. And think about it now, we're only like 6 weeks away from Christmas. And that was a time of huge emotional investment, huge emotional exertion. And now your nervous system, it needs time to reset and settle before you get into the next pattern. And so emotional winter allows your nervous system to do that. It allows your nervous system to step back from the stress and the disappointment and the cortisol and find time for healing and find time for growth and find time for rest. Identity realignment is another thing that happens during emotional winter. You start recognizing what no longer fits. Again, when we're busy and when we're active and when we're socializing and our calendars are full, we just try to fit everything in. We try to make everything work, even if it doesn't, even if it drives us to be stressful, even if it drives us to, bad behaviors in eating or sleeping or alcohol consumption or whatever. But when we stop and rest, when we allow our identity to be realigned, we start to ask those questions. We start to ask those questions about things that just don't fit anymore, roles that we have in life, commitments that we make, relationships that maybe need to have some conclusion, but we just seem to hold on to them, habits or goals that just need to be realigned or reimagined or reevaluated. We can't do that when we're busy and when we're running and when we're high stressed. We do that when we rest. And emotional winter gives us a chance to do some realignment of our identity. It also gives time for creativity to rest. There's a thing. We are creative people. We have to be creative people. There's so many things that require our creativity levels on a regular basis. What we're going to eat, what we're going to wear, if we work in places that require creativity and we're always going and going and going, it gives room for rest, for the expansion of new ideas and new possibilities and new direction. Look, we can't find newness and new ideas when we are packing in the old. We have to be able to step aside from it. Again, and this is not a negative thing. This is important. And it strengthens internal roots. Think of a tree. Just like trees deepen their root systems in winter, you strengthen your internal stability in winter. It strengthens those internal roots. You get a chance to, reevaluate and look back and grow and heal and get rest and get restoration. It's dormancy, but not stagnation, okay? It's preparation for a season of accelerated growth. And that's what we see. That's the thing about spring. You get into wintertime, and I always find myself, in that moment where it's just like, oh, it's winter. Oh, I'm so tired. And then boom, everything's alive. You see the first buds and then everything's open. Growth accelerates when the preparation is done. And emotional winter is that time of preparation when we prepare ourselves for that growth. So how do you know if you're an emotional winter? It all sounds interesting, right? How do you know that you're there? What are some of the signs that might point you to being an emotional winter right now? Well, one of them is you have less interest in socializing. You have less interest in being out with people. You need more sleep or downtime. What used to be, hey, I get 5 hours, 6 hours, and I'm good to go all day. Now there's a little bit more rest. You crave quiet or solitude or nature or disconnect from the world for a little while. You crave that. It's all important. And we all, try to work it into our schedule, but we crave it. That's a sign of emotional winter. You feel pulled towards reflection. Like, I really want to look into this and I really want to experience this. You're less reactive and more observant. You don't feel like forcing productivity, or your motivation has shifted from doing to being. You feel emotionally tender, sensitive, or introspective, or you're revisiting unresolved emotions. Those are some of the signs that you're in this emotional winter. It's this stillness, this being, this inwardness. You're doing the inner work right now. That's what emotional winter is about, doing the inner work. If you resonate with any of that, then you're likely an emotional winter at this point in time. Again, and this is not a bad thing. This is a healthy, necessary season. I want you to hear this. This is a healthy, necessary season. Emotional winter is a healthy, necessary thing This is not a bad thing. But the challenge is we live in a world where emotional winters feel uncomfortable. Because, let's be honest, slower seasons can feel uncomfortable because society glorifies speed. You're conditioned to believe this. You're conditioned to believe that slowing down equals lazy, that quiet equals unproductive, that reflective equals weak, that uncertain equals failing, that tired equals not trying. Think about the world we live in. Think about the hustle culture that's jammed down our emotional throats every day. We see it on social media. We have it. We compare it. And so when we get into this season where things slow down, where things quiet down, where we move in a different direction, it can feel uncomfortable because it challenges the myth that we are supposed to always be on, always be achieving, always be moving, never stop, never, just keep moving and hustling over and over and over and over and over again. That is what we're taught. That is what we are told every day. But the truth is, if you skip emotional winter, you sabotage your emotional spring. And that's truth. If you don't rest now, you'll burn out later. If you don't reflect now, you'll repeat old patterns later. If you don't release now, you'll carry emotional weight into the next season. Your emotional winter is protecting you from future exhaustion. It is the reset that your body and your mind and your soul and your heart and your emotions need. Your emotional winter is slowing you down so your mind can catch up with your life. Because our life is fast, but our mind takes a lot of time to process that. And so we need those times, those down times. And emotional winter is one of those down times. And there actually is science behind it. You know, there's an important thing that moves in our brain. You know, understanding this, how our brain works, it removes that guilt and judgment. When we see that it actually is productive, we can step away from these feelings of guilt and judgment because our world just pounds this speed down us. You know, when you're in emotional winter, your brain prioritizes internal processing and emotional sorting and memory integration. Wow, there's a big one. Memory integration, problem solving, and nervous system recalibration. That's what your brain does when we slow down. And those things are all important because when we don't have them, then we're disconnected and unbalanced. It slows down the activation of the reward-seeking behaviors. You know, that rush we get when we do something and everybody's happy with us. It slows them down. It slows down rapid decision making, which sometimes we have to do. Sometimes we have to make rapid decisions. We have to move. But we also need to have a place where we can step back and make sure that the decisions we make are going to have positive long-term effect, not just short-term effect. You know, if we think about a decision as a pebble we throw in the pond, if we just think about where the pebble lands, then we're not doing a good enough job of thinking about how the decisions we make will have impact down the road. When we step back and we slow down that rapid decision making, we can see more fully what our decisions do and how our decisions affect ourselves and each other. It slows down the feeling of needing to multitask. You know, that's one of the biggest myths about our brain. Our brain doesn't multitask. Our brain focuses on one thing and one thing only at a time. When we try to multitask, actually what we're doing is we're just becoming distracted. We're giving a little bit to this and a little bit to that and a little bit to this and a little bit to that. What we want to do is we want to learn to focus our brain on that one thing and put all the energy in that one focus for the period of time that's needed. But when we go into emotional winter, we learn we can do that because we step out of that multitasking. And we slow down our goal-oriented thinking. Not everything in our brain and in our life needs to have an end game goal. Some things can just be. And when we get into emotional winter, we can learn to just be. You know, when we're there, you know, your brain is saying to you, let's reset now so that we can thrive later. Nothing's wrong with you. You're simply aligning with your internal biology. And that's the thing. You know, one of the things about us humans is we've become very good at not paying attention to our internal biology. When we're tired, we don't go to sleep. We have an energy drink or a Starbucks. When we're hungry, we usually don't eat. When we're stressed, we usually do. So we are very good at manipulating our biological needs. Emotional winter really just kind of resets them. So let's embrace that a little bit. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you because you're an emotional winner. It's actually important. So rather than, pushing through it, rather than overcoming it, if that's where you are, then let's talk about how you can work with it. If this is the system, if this is where you're at, again, we're covered in snow. I could stand outside in my swimsuit and I could rail against the cold and the snow. But hey, guess what? It's still cold and snow. It's still there. So rather than me trying to rail against it and change it, how do we work with it? How do we use this? How do we walk through this time to the best of our ability? This is where we are. So how do we walk through this time to the best of our ability? Well, one of the things to do is to reduce the emotional noise. Spend less time consuming information. Once you realize this is where you are, spend less time consuming information and give your mind space to breathe. Give your mind. If this is where your mind wants to be, if this is where your emotions need to be, then foster it, cultivate it. Give your mind that space. Prioritize restoring activities. These aren't luxuries. They're maintenance for your emotional well-being, like reading or journaling or walking or resting or meditating or doing quiet hobbies like jigsaw puzzles or, Sudoku puzzles. Prioritize restorative activities. Allow yourself to stay there. If this is where you're going to be, then dwell in it. This is not laziness. This is not luxuries. Oh, I'm treating myself to the luxury of reading. No, you're reading. That's not a luxury. It's part of your identity. So do it. Lower the pressure on performance. This is not a season to push for perfection, my friends. This is not a season to be excellent and perfect all the time. This is a season to rebuild foundations. And rebuilding foundations can be difficult and messy because you got to dig down into the dirt and into the mud. That's how it works. This is not a season for perfection. This is a season for rebuilding. So lower the pressure on performance. Lower the pressure to say, I've got to get, these 85 things done today. Maybe it's only 83. Maybe it's only 12. Lower that pressure for performance, because when we have that high pressure for performance all the time, it just drives us into that hustle culture and it drives us into that imbalance. So lower that. Reflect, but don't overanalyze. You're allowed to think deeply, my friends, but avoid that spiraling into self-criticism. Avoid that place where it's like, well, here I am sitting and I'm dwelling and I'm lazy and I'm stupid and I should be doing something. Avoid that. Don't go down that road. This is not a time to push through something that is here. And accept slower progress. And remember, what looks slow is actually deep. Just because a tree isn't growing up faster and faster doesn't mean that the roots aren't going deeper and deeper. When we look at nature, when we look at the growth of nature, some of the fastest growing trees have the shallowest roots. Pine trees are a great example of that. Evergreens. Evergreens grow tall and they grow fast, but they're usually the first ones that get blown over in a windstorm because their roots aren't deep. But if you look at a hardwood like an oak or a maple, they grow slower, but every inch that they grow up, they have a taproot that grows down. Okay? That's what makes them so strong and so viable, is that they're growing down just as much as they're growing up. So that's how it works. Accept that that's how it works. And that if you're growing and you're deepening and strengthening, you're putting just as much energy and growing into your roots and your foundation as you are as growing up. And this is a time to really put that energy into your roots. Do that. Accept that progress is slower. What looks slow is actually deep. It's happening deep down inside of you. And notice what's trying to change. Again, when we're so busy and we're so pounding with emotion and stuff, there are things that are trying to change, but we don't notice it. There are things that are trying to let go or hold on, but we don't notice it. So emotional winter brings clarity. You may notice the relationship that just takes too much, and maybe that needs to change. Or the habits that drain you. You just keep doing them, but you're not taking time to think about them. The goals that you don't care about anymore. The boundaries you've ignored. These are the places that we can notice that need to be changed. But we can't do that when we're noisy. We have to do that when we're resting, when we're sitting still. Look, I want to reframe this. I want you to see this a different way. Emotional winter is not fading. It's not failure. It's not laziness. It's fortification. You are fortifying yourself. You are gathering wisdom. You are reconnecting with yourself. You are understanding your emotional landscape. You are rebuilding momentum from the inside out. You're not stuck. You're settling, you're grounding, and you're strengthening. Emotional winter is a time when your inner world gets reorganized to support your future growth. Trust that something important is happening, even if you can't see it yet, even if it doesn't look like it. That's the power and the importance of emotional winter, because there is work being done. You're just not seeing it happen. But if we try to avoid that work, then the next step, the next season isn't going to be as powerful. It isn't going to be as explosive, because you're not doing the work now. So it's okay, my friends, to be here. It's okay to be in this emotional winter. It's okay to be slower and a little bit more, reflective and a little bit more isolated. It's okay, because that means that you're growing from the inside out. That's what I got for you for today. I hope it's helpful for you. I do. If it is, please share it out there. Put it out there on your social media feeds, or if you're on one of the listening platforms, and follow us, give us a rating and review. And if you want to reach out to me, as always, GraceLifeCoaching.com is the website. At Grace Life Coaching, we want you to be the best you.